A man with a keen mind to analyze the music, to dissect the music, and to be able to place it in a way where it makes sense, it retains its originality, and also moves with time.
जो परफॉर्मर होता है उसकी रुचि सिखाने की तरफ इतनी नहीं होती, ऐसा भी होता है। और उन्होंने ये भी साबित किया कि अच्छे परफॉर्मर जो होते हैं वो बहुत अच्छे शिक्षक भी हो सकते हैं।
Two different kinds of animals in this world of music. Dinkar ji was both, and that was very special about him.
As a child, there was a temple nearby where in the evening there was a bhajan. So his mother, who used to go to the temple, used to take him and used to sit there and enjoy it, and had grasped quite a few bhajans then and there. This one exceptional quality he had, he heard anything just once and he used to remember it. Then when they later on shifted to Tardev, this Sonamala building, it was there that the neighbor who used to play the harmonium, Dinkarji used to go and sit there as a young boy. He came and told his father that your son is exceptionally talented, so you better teach him some music. So that was how he started learning. He used to go to some teacher nearby. So one day when he went there to attend the class, and the teacher said, today I have, in Marathi, he said, "Az mottha gana hai." He said, there is some big concert happening, so today you go home. So he was curious to know what this mottha gana is. So he quietly followed that teacher without his knowledge. The person who was allowing people to go inside, he asked him, "You want to listen to the program?" He said, "Yes, but I don't have a ticket." So he said, "All right, I'll let you in, but you sit here behind." So he sat there. The first performance was Abdul Karim Khan Sahab. By listening to the music, he quietly shifted. And because he was a boy, everybody allowed him to go ahead. And by the time Abdul Karim Khan Sahab's concert was over, he was sitting right in front. The next concert was Fayaz Khan Sahab. And his personality, his appearance on the stage was absolutely daunting. So he was so impressed with that music. At that age, at the age of 7, he decided that if I ever sing, I want to sing like this. That was how his musical journey began.
He was kind of hopping from guru to guru, depending on where his family lived, who was available, who they could afford financially. Until he heard Sri Chidanand Nagarkar and realized that this is in the same style as Fayaz Khan Sahab. So he asked his father to speak to him, and he eventually said, "Oh no, you must learn from my guru if that's what you want," who is in Lucknow, Pandit S.N. Ratanjankar. So his father took him to meet Pandit S.N. Ratanjankar one summer in Bombay when he was visiting, and really pleaded to let him listen to his son. And I think Anna Sahib wasn't too keen because he saw that he was very young. But he said, okay, come in and sing something for me. And so he sang one after another, whatever he had learned. I think a Bandish in Marwa and Bandish in Todi with tans, and kind of like a proper item as he had learned it thus far. And after that, Anna Sahib asked him to repeat after him to see his grasping ability. And immediately he would reproduce whatever he sang. And he realized that the child was very talented.
That was how he landed up in Marist College of Music at the age of 11. Once there, he had a very, very close kind of a protective atmosphere where Pandit S.C.R. Bhatt, Pandit K.G. Ginde, they were all together.
I remember those days, starting from 1941, when I started performing for All India Radio in Lucknow. And I befriended this group of young musicians who were almost same age as myself, studying there in Marist College under Ratan Yankarji. The eldest one was Chidanand Nagarkar. And the youngest was Dinkar Kaikiti. He was the youngest, the baby of the whole group. And for 4 days we used to meet often, go around Lucknow, have best lassi, pani puri, pan, and spend so much time with music and frolic. It was wonderful. And Dinkar really was so sweet and he was singing already so wonderful.
In the winters, it would get very cold and they would wake up at 4 a.m. for their riyaz. Pandit S.C.R. Bhatt would actually poke Panditji with a stick from across the room to wake him up. They would have to bathe in very cold water in already cold temperature. And then he would go off to school, and by 3 o'clock he would come back from school and there would be rotis and some dal, and sometimes it had been left out for so long that you could tell that rats had nibbled at the corners, and that's what he had to eat.
I mean, I'm sure a 10-year-old is not happy being hungry. I'm sure a 10-year-old misses his mother when he's sick, and he was very ill in Lucknow. But those are the kind of bonds he developed with Pandit S.C.R. Bhatt and K.G. Ginde, who looked after him through all these rough times. But that one intense desire was there, that whatever happens, I'm going to learn this. So he never complained, never told his parents that he needed this or needed that and he was unhappy, nothing.
From a very tender age, he had to sit and think about every aspect of the art. Anna Sahib used to just sit and sing. No time to ask any questions, no spoon feeding. So it turned my father into a thinker. When a time came in my father's life when he started thinking independently, there were so many questions that he would fearlessly ask his guru. He was the one who broke the ice. Amongst all his guru bhais, being the youngest, he still summoned all courage inside him to go and ask so many delicate technical questions.
At some points, Dinkarji did not agree with some of Bhatkandeji's views on some things. So Ratnajankarji said, okay, your point of reasoning is right, you can sing it, but I have too much of my Guru Bhakti to Bhatkandeji, so I will not change my view, but you are free to make that modification.
In those times, there have been like a sprinkling of 1 or 2 or 3 minds that have really looked deeply into this art form and found that it is necessary to be able to pass on this knowledge in a form that it preserves its originality.
कायकडेजी एक असे कलाकार होते की पाठच्या काळामध्ये बघत होते, पाठच्या काळात घडलेल्या गोष्टी ह्या काळापर्यंत ते खेचून आणून ते लोकांसमोर ठेवत होते.
आवाजाचा लगाव कसा असावा, कुठला टिंबर वापरायचा,
अपर टिंबर, लोअर टिंबर,
प्रत्येक अक्षराचा उच्चारण कसं असावं. न म्हणताना न नाही म्हणायचं आहे, न म्हणजे ना 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 नाही, ना जाने ना जाने. कार म्हटल्यानंतर य मध्ये कसं ई या असं नाही, जशी वात तेलामध्ये भिजलेली असते तसा प्रत्येक अक्षर प्रत्येक शब्द हा असा सुरात भिजलेला असला पाहिजे.
My Hindi was not very good, so he used to explain the whole Pandish clearly, and sometimes jokingly he'd ask me to translate, and I don't know what, I'd sometimes make all sorts of faux pas with my translation, and that was quite fun. But all that was explained before we started on it, the poetry of it, the literal meaning, and then, what is beyond that also.
He had given me a phenomenal, I would say, a small lesson on teaching, and especially teaching children. He used to say, divide your lesson in 3 bits. One where the child is welcomed when the child walks in, and the atmosphere, your energy should be such that the child immediately engages. Second, where you impart what you want to. Okay. Third, when to stop. Don't give it all away. Leave some behind so the child wants to come back for the next class. He had this tremendous, I would say, innate study of a person's psychology, especially children. He used to keep them simple. The melody used to be simple. Words used to be extremely simple, but very catchy and very laybadh. The most popular one which children sing is sa pa sa pa sa pa sa sa pa sa pa sa pa sa sa pa sa pa sa pa sa sa pa sa pa sa pa sa. एक सप्तक में होती है 7 स्वरों की एक लड़ी, ऊपर जाते आरोही और लौटे अवरोही, सारे गम पधनी सानी धप मगरे सा प सा प. He always wanted the student to be extremely conscientious, extremely meditative, concentrating on one goal, so that whatever he sang once, I should repeat and grasp it. Taskmaster in every way, like if I would turn up in the class even 5 minutes late, which the class used to be from 5:30 onwards till he stopped. So sometimes it would go on till 8. And if I turned up there at 5:35, I've been sent home several times.
Dinkarji's way of training was on several tiers, several levels. One was when we would go and ask questions to him. The other was just sitting and having a cup of chai, and then some discussion, some topic comes up. That's another way of training. Other was at the concert when I was accompanying him. So that was also was a very live training on the hot tawa.
I started learning under him in 1952. Somehow I always felt that I could never do it at the level where Dinkarji was. He used to make an effort teaching her, but with him, with his temper and the way, most of the lessons used to end in tears.
गुरु म्हणजे अंधकार दूर करणारा. त्या दृष्टीने मला असं वाटतं की अन्नूनी खरंच त्यांचे जे शिष्य होते त्यांच्या जीवनातला अंधकार नक्कीच नष्ट केलेला आहे.
In Parsis, we never touch the feet of, not never, it's not a custom, and we just sort of dive into each other's arms, just hug and all that. So when I first observed this custom where everyone touched Sir's feet, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know how to do it the right way. You know, if I did it, I wanted to do it the right way. What do I do? Is it with both hands? Do you go right down? What do you do? And I'm convinced that he sensed that and he knew it, because he never just used to, hold my hands and allow me to sort of give him a very gentle embrace. But this was a wonderful understanding that he realized, and he didn't demand it, never demanded it.
He was not only a guru, not only a larger than life, but also a friend. That kind of companionship that I got from him was very rare. You really don't get a companionship from a guru. You know, you don't get him as a friend with whom you can walk and amble and talk a few things, you know.
बड़े ज़बरदस्त कलाकार थे। आगरा घराने के अगर कोई 2-4 उस ज़माने के कलाकार लें तो उसमें से वो एक थे।
थोडंसं आग्रा घराण्याची गायकी कशी आहे, ॲग्रेसिव्ह गायकी आहे. त्याच्यात मी म्हणून विसरणं फार कठीण आहे. आग्रा घराण्याचा प्रभाव होता गायकिणीजींवरती. तर ते स्वतःला विसरून ज्यावेळी गायचे ना, त्यामुळे गायकिणीजींचं मर्म तिथे होतं मला असं वाटतं.
Fayaz Khan Sahab was his ideal, and I think when he was younger, he just imitated him. And Pitaji's structure, the physical structure, was not as big as Fayaz Khan Sahab's was. Neither was his internal health.
His way of singing Agra Gharana, that is Nom Tom Alap, was with full force. So my father initially tried to emulate that. And he ended up, rupturing his vocal cords. He couldn't sing,
And he had to take a very long silent rest. So when he couldn't sing, he started painting.
Then he recovered, and then he realized that he had to, adapt or change his way of singing to his physical build and also, his stamina and all.
जो कि एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी परफॉर्मर्स होते हैं, वो अपने घराने की गायकी को हूबहू ज़ेरोक्स नहीं गाते, वो अपना कुछ उसमें ऐड कर देते हैं. ये उनमें से थे.
He loved Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab's voice, the flexibility of his voice, his range, the way he used to negotiate taans, and so many aspects of Patiala he tried to imbibe in his singing. So many aspects of Abdul Karim Khan Sahab's singing he tried to imbibe, from the Kirana style. And therefore, in his own singing later on in his 50s and 60s, the Agra Gharana Gaiki that he would sing had his own identity.
When he used to teach us, he used to call it recollective, recreative, and creative. So these are the three stages in a performer's life, where you recollect first from what you have been taught. Then you recreate that of what you have heard, your guru and so many others. And out of the manthan, out of the real, working on the recollective music and recreative music is when you get the creative music out. And he said, even if you try as hard as you want, the creative music will appear, if at all, only post 40.
His approach to Kanaswar, was very delicate, and he has spoken about it in a number of different lecture demonstrations. The coloring of a particular sur that it gets from a shadow of a neighboring sur was for him not only a matter of technique, but also a matter of art. This is a sparsha note, swar. I'm coming from another note, but the way I arrived there, so that sparsha swar gives ideas to then using that sparsha as his launching pad, you go to different notes, different ranges, and explore the rag from so many other angles. So he's giving a set of launching pads to you,
Ranjayate iti ragaha. He said, it has to be pleasing here first. 2, the grammar has to be within, but never seen. Don't ever show grammar. Don't ever show technique.
He would insist that if you take a particular tan, we had to concentrate like a hawk and analyze the tan with a particular every note. And because we used to be so scared of him, we automatically learned to have a kind of a focused concentration on that taan. And I find that now it has become second nature. And when a situation arises in the operation theatre, situation which demands absolute focus concentration, that I am able to do it at will.
मी त्यांना असं म्हटलं होतं की संगीतामध्ये कलाकाराला खूप कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन करायला लागतं, परंतु कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन करताना एक आपला कान कॉन्शियस असावा लागतो, माइंड. आणि ते काय असतं की आपला स्वर बरोबर लागतोय का नाही, आपली लय बरोबर आहे का नाही, आपला तालक्रिया बरोबर आहे का नाही, हा कॉन्शियसनेस आहे. हा कॉन्शियसनेस कॉन्सन्ट्रेशनला मागे खेचतो. फार कठीण प्रश्न आहे तसा म्हटलं तर, पण त्यांनी उत्तर देताना इतकं म्हणाले, साधना तर हेच सांगते, कॉन्शियसनेस हाच मुळे कॉन्सन्ट्रेशनच्या मदतीसाठी वापराचा. म्हणाले प्रॉब्लेम सॉल्व्ह होणार.
तुम सुरगी सुरगी मागा ज्ञान भवन ज्ञान भवन वास हम दिन यह कृपा दरसाई.
He used to keep saying, एक आलाप या दो आलाप के बाद come back, stand back and look at the canvas. Go back, do what you have to, come back, look at the canvas. He said never should any one aspect stand out. If it stands out, that means you haven't internalized it.
He used to tell me that an artist goes through various different stages of performances. One is trying to deal with the thought process at that time in the most intellectual fashion. Basically experiencing the whole process of performing for yourself, enjoying it for yourself from within, जिसको हम आत्मरंजन कहते हैं.
उस समय में जो संगीत का आनंद लेने का जो एक तरीका था, भातखंडे विद्यापीठ, वहाँ सब लोग इकट्ठे भी हुए और खूब बड़े बड़े सब गुरु लोग, उस्ताद. जो एक माहौल था, महल्ला और प्यार, वो बग़ैर कॉन्फ्रेंस के, बग़ैर कहीं के, घर पे ही माहौल बन जाता था. फिर संजोग से मुझे ऐसा मौका मिला कि मैं मुंबई आया और मेरी बड़ी तमन्ना थी कि दिनकर भैया से मैं मिलूं, जाके बैठूं. हमने कहा भाई एक आध कविता मैंने लिखी हैं, तो कहना सुनाओ भाई सुनाओ. इनको इतना अच्छा लगा, कहले जियो यार, खुश रहो, हम उनको सुन रहे, वो हमको सुन रहे. बस ये आपसदारी का जो संगीत का माहौल था इतना बड़ा था.
He brought such beauty in the Agra style of singing. His voice was wonderful, very sonorous, very powerful, but at the same time it was beautiful. I was really a great admirer of his singing.
नेशनल प्रोग्राम की एक अपनी गरिमा थी जो आज नहीं रही है, अफसोस की बात है. और उन्हीं कलाकारों के नेशनल प्रोग्राम होते थे रेडियो से, जो एक बड़ी ही अपनी एक पहचान हो, हर एक का नहीं होता था.
उन्होंने जब वो वहाँ थे ऑल इंडिया रेडियो में, तो उन्होंने संगीत का पूरा नक्शा ही चेंज कर दिया.
मेरी उनकी पहली जो मुलाकात हुई वो 1957 में दिल्ली रेडियो पे। तो हम तो ऐसे उदीयमान कलाकारों में भी शायद थे कि नहीं पता नहीं, मगर पुट्टी सी मुलाकात में उन्होंने ये दिखा दिया कि उनके लिए छोटा बड़ा कोई बात नहीं है, ही वाज सिंपल एंड डाउन टू द अर्थ।
बहुत लोगों को बाहर से बुलाना, चाहे वो रेडियो का आर्टिस्ट हो चाहे नहीं हो, उनको बुलाना, उनका सम्मान करना और उनके पीछे बैठ के उनको तारीफ़ करके उनको अच्छा गवाना, और अच्छे अच्छे कलाकारों को बुला के सारे भारत को सुनवाते थे, गांव-गांव में जाता था प्रोग्राम।
I do feel that if he had not gone there and stayed in as a performing musician, he would have been much better known as a performer than he eventually came to be, because a certain number of years were lost in just establishing himself as a performer, and he became a musician's musician more than a people's musician.
The way he perceived the architecture of a performance, entire architecture of a rag, then the entire architecture of a full concert, the ragas that he would sing one after the other, the choice of raga, the sequence of combination or sequence, and then the way he would, the tal he would select, and the kind of, I would say, choreography of an entire concert. So that itself was a huge eye-opener in how to look at music as a form of architecture.
And then he would break it down to the first note.
कितना शुद्ध निषाद रागेश्वर में होना चाहिए, कैसे यमन में छुपा हुआ शुद्ध मध्यम है, कैसे किरवानी में कोमल निषाद का जगह है जो कि ऐसे वर्जित है।
Mastering the technique is different. Using the technique after mastering is another. When after mastering you start using the technique, that is intentional. उसमें भाव होता है, that is creativity.
Intention, the word intention was like tattooed in our heads from day one, that don't open your mouth unless there is an intention. And if there is an intention, वो असर करेगा.
There were times when I've seen that he used to get lost in that, absolutely lost. That was the highest point for him and audiences who understood his music and connoisseurs who loved classical music.
गणपत गवर देवा लांबे सूड मत वाला रे हो जे पूजा मारी
But then he used to tell me that the final thing is to wrap up everybody in that experience that you're having from abstract to concrete and finally take everybody to the abstract.
The impact of these kinds of demonstrations was palpable. In the audience, there would be a kind of anubhuti of. So what is happening here is something that could not be described in words. You had to see the expressions on their faces. And I've had this experience myself, because you get a feeling that you know for sure that you're experiencing something that will not be repeated very often.
like when I performed with him in France, in Paris, I was wondering, you know, that I asked him, in fact, I said, यहाँ लोगों को नोमतोम आलाप पता भी चलेगा ये, you know, ये क्या चीज़ है? He said, you'll be surprised. And he said, one is that human emotions are common all over the world. Cultures may change. So ऐसे कभी मत समझना कि उसको शब्द नहीं आ रहे हैं तो it's a waste. No. What you are emoting, he already has that faculty, you know, and that's what connects. That was one thing. The other thing he used to really emphasize is how much to give in a concert. And he used to give a fantastic metaphor. He said you could be a master in the Japanese flower arrangement, Ikebana, but when you go to pick your flowers that day, you know, वही एक 6 या 7 चीज़ें उठा के लाओ, which will make a fantastic arrangement.
कधी कधी असं वाटतं की बुजुर्गांनी इतकं काही गाऊन ठेवलेलं आहे, आता नवनिर्मिती असेल का?
मला असं वाटतं की साहित्य त्यांच्या समोर आलं आणि नंतर संगीत सुरू केलं असावं. नाहीतर बऱ्याच वेळेला काय होतं, संगीत काहीतरी सुचतं आणि मग त्याच्यात शब्द भाडोत्री घेतात. मी घेतो, मी तुम्हाला सांगतो माझं वीक आहे तर मला मदत घ्यावी लागते, पण तसं त्यांच्या बाबतीत नव्हतं. त्यांच्या बाबतीत साहित्य इक्वली उत्तम दर्जाचं साहित्य, उत्तम रागांग, त्याची बांधणी म्हटली की तालांग आलं, कारण बांधणीचा शब्द, शब्दाचा संबंध हा मीटरशी आहे, मीटरचा संबंध हा लयीशी आहे, लयीचा संबंध तालाशी आहे. त्यामुळे त्यांचा तो बरोबर शब्द त्या तालाशी इतकी बांधिलकी ठेवून होते शब्द. तर मला असं वाटतं फार कमी लोकांचा आहे अशा तऱ्हेचा विचार.
इतने अच्छे अच्छे कंपोजिशन उन्होंने किए हैं. राग तो वही हम कितने साल से सुन रहे, मगर वही राग को किस नए दृष्टि से वो देख सकते हैं और इसीलिए वो बंदिश बनाई.
His philosophy on composing was that he was a medium and that he received these ideas because he was in tune with this kind of energy that existed in the cosmos, and he was able to tap into that, and that's how he produced many of his bandishes.
You know, one of the compositions in Bhimpalasi, he had got the inspiration when he was in Europe from a church when he heard the organ. And he kind of took that inspiration and he had composed a dhamar where we were almost 20 to 25 voices, you know, harmonizing the notes of Bhimpalasi at the same time, and which culminated into which went into a sargam and then culminated into the dhamar.
Many of his compositions and the rags that he has created are influenced by some folk elements as well. His rag Gagan Vihang that he created has influence, a folk influence to certain aspects of it. His rag Bayati was influenced largely by a Persian scale that was very similar, which touched on microtones that we don't usually touch in Hindustani rag sangeet.
एक बार कि कुछ प्राइवेट महफिल थी तो उसमें मुझे भी याद नहीं, कुछ शायद कोई कर्नाटकी कोई राग मैंने बजाया था। उसके कुछ दिन के बाद मेरी उनसे मुलाकात हुई दिनकर जी से। उस दिन वो मौजूद थे वहाँ पर। तो कहने लगे इस पर मैंने अपने लिहाज से एक बंदिश की है जो उस दिन सुना था। तो ये जो एक सोच है कि परंपरा को रखते हुए ओपन माइंडेड होना।
Each composition is Dinkarji, by the way, as a person. He's an organically whole person. You touch him at any point of his mind, of his thought, of his actions. Same man.
Another one of his compositions, Aaye Sanpatsu Jaan in Rag Jog, that he composed a year after his guru passed away. And he wanted to sing Rag Jog for the first death anniversary of Pandit S.N. Ratanjankar, but he had not learned it from him. So one night he had a very intense dream in which Anna Sahib was teaching him Jog, and it was extremely fresh in his mind that at almost 2 in the morning he woke up and he started singing because he wanted to immediately put into practice whatever he had dreamed. He wanted to start singing. And as he sang and sang, the bandish itself came to him, in which he describes this dream, how his guru came to him in his dreams and taught him Jog.
With the way he used to express his feelings for Bhatkhandiji and for Dr. Ratanjankar was that what can he do but be bhakti, but have bhakti for these people. I felt that all the works of Bhatkhandiji came alive through Dinkarji's explanations, through his performances. So I feel it's a very rare example where you see a very logical mind transcending the limits of logic and entering into bhakti.
I don't remember growing up just my parents and the 3 of us ever in this home, ever. हमेशा यहाँ पे स्टूडेंट्स तालीम के लिए आएंगे तो यहाँ खाना खा के जाएंगे, शाम को भवन से कोई आ रहे हैं तो यहाँ खाना खा के वापस जाएंगे, एग्जामिनर्स लखनऊ से आ रहे हैं तो यहीं रहेंगे. You know, so it's been an open house and there's just been music all the time here.
For him, music making means just dive straight into the water, go deep straight.
उन्होंने कभी चिंता नहीं की कि मेरी कितनी पब्लिसिटी हो रही है, क्या कुछ हो रहा है.
In a very commercial, in a very fundamental professional life of today's musicians, is that you dive, but see that the cameras are on.
He used to give free concerts, he would give concerts where people underpaid him, but it didn't really matter, you know. Whatever he taught anybody, all the students who used to come here used to learn free. He never took any money from anybody. Just once he had said to me, and I don't think we really pushed it after that, was he said, Saraswati ka bhi koi daam hota hai kya? You know.
Dinkarji or my father and all, they were more like reluctant acceptors of recognition. They were not necessarily concerned about whether that comes or not.
He didn't get any of the Padma awards or anything like that. But as it happens, the awards mostly they miss the bus to reach the recipient.
So Dinkarji therefore basically stayed in the background a lot more. And I think maybe that was a great boon for us, because then he was able to concentrate much more on the preservation and nurturing of this great art, and would probably be talked about 100 years from now.
I did my best to support him in every avenue, whether it was performance, whether it was practice, whether it was teaching. I saw to it that he was not disturbed.
She shares that relationship with him as a guru and then the husband. So उनकी नज़र से ही वो भांप लेती थी कि पिताजी को क्या चाहिए.
He said to me many times that he had to give all the credit for any of his success was to his wife. From maintaining a house and a family and to being a musical companion. Though they didn't necessarily get married on this mission to spread music, it really was what happened because they just served the community by teaching and performing for so many years and thousands of students.
मज़ेदार बात क्या है कि इनके ससुर साहब जो थे डॉक्टर शमसी, वो खुद गाने बजाने के बहुत शौकीन थे डॉक्टर साहब. तो जब ये शादी हुई तो उन्होंने कहा पंडित जी मुझे मेरा जवाई बहुत अच्छा मिला है, बहुत अच्छा गाता है.
I have had a extremely wonderful wedded life. Those 52 years with him have been really perfect companionship.
He was unwell for, I would say, severely unwell for about 2 years.
की सकाळी असं वाटायचं की अन्नू कसे करणार आता संध्याकाळी, आता कार्यक्रम आहे आणि अगदी बोलता पण येत नाही आहे त्यांना, आणि संध्याकाळी ते काहीतरी वेगळेच असायचे. असं वाटायचं की यांना सकाळी काही झालं होतं का.
He managed to sing with whatever span of breath he had. That is where he used his imagination and creativity. Never stopped singing, and while singing, nobody could make out that he had all these problems. Of course, that vigor and that strength that he used to use earlier was not there, but there was something else. His music became very sublime, very soulful, and extremely emotionally effective. And he kept singing, but after a point of time, after 2006, which gave him a very, very bad attack in Pune where he was performing, after that he felt that he couldn't do full justice to his own music. That was how he stopped giving performances after 2006 November. That month was the last performance in Bharati Vidya Bhavan. After that he didn't. He said, I cannot feel satisfied myself that I have done justice, and I don't want to do any compromise anywhere. So he just stopped.
His acceptance of his final years also showed this softness of personality. He enjoyed his grandchildren, he enjoyed his family members, and generally lived his life according to his own lights in the classic yoga-related way.
The last breath that he took, nobody was near him. He was sitting in this chair, reading the newspaper. On that day, he was absolutely fine. There was nothing, no pain, nothing. He didn't complain. He had a good breakfast. He ate even his pan and was sitting there and reading the newspaper. And I was chatting with my grandchildren there. I came in to ask him what he would like to eat for lunch, and he was gone. During all his musical journey, he had evolved spiritually. So his attitude, everything had changed towards life, towards music, slowly. So maybe he is in a very good place. That is how I have taken it.